As I surveyed the nearly empty room, I asked, "Are you ready to leave yet?" A sigh escaped from my companion. "Just waiting for the movers," they replied, the relief in their voice unmistakable. "Honestly, I won't miss seeing you around, and the way you changed the locks, like I'd try to break in, was a bit much." I'd always wondered why such drastic measures were necessary, but now, it almost seemed beside the point. When I first met Kevin, he was a quiet man, overly concerned with what others thought of him. After we married, he became the quintessential henpecked husband. Just a week after I settled into my new place, Kevin showed up, looking frantic. "It's me, open up," he pleaded. I pretended not to recognize him, responding to his panic with feigned indifference. "I'm Carol, 34, part-time job, 4 days a week. It's been 3 years since Kevin and I got married. No kids yet, but I thought we could still be happy," I reflected to myself. In the early days of our marriage, we would talk late into the night, dreaming about the future. Both of us were newcomers to love, cautious at first, but we enjoyed each other's company. "Let's be the couple that grows old together," I once suggested. "Yeah, I like that idea. Maybe 3 kids, 1 boy, 1 girl," he said. It was these light-hearted exchanges that meant so much to someone like me, who had never been particularly interested in love or marriage. Meeting Kevin was an accident, a result of me attending a party I didn't care about, and him showing up for the same reason. We bonded over our mutual lack of enthusiasm, and from there, our friendship grew. At first, Kevin was serious, a little reserved, but always kind, and I found that endearing. Then, without warning, he proposed. "Carol, will you marry me? I want to make you happy." "What? But we're not even dating yet, right?" I was taken off guard. He nodded, unwavering in his decision. His unexpected proposal didn't drive me away. Instead, it made me pause and think about what life with him could be. "If you're sure about me, then yes, I accept," I replied. His joy was evident, and in that moment, I felt that perhaps life really does work in mysterious ways. When Kevin proposed, I truly believed that marriage to him would lead to a happy future. We rushed into it, tying the knot just 2 months after meeting. Neither of us had much experience in relationships, and the awkwardness was part of the charm. But a month into living together, I began to notice a gap between my expectations and the reality of our marriage. One day, Kevin approached me with a serious look, more intense than usual. "Carol, there's something I need to discuss," he said solemnly. I was caught off guard when he asked me to consider quitting my job to become a homemaker. This request was a complete surprise. He'd never once complained about my working before, and his sudden change in attitude marked the beginning of an unsettling shift in his behavior. "Why would you ask that?" I asked, confused by his request. "When you work, it makes me feel unneeded," he admitted. "Did someone suggest that to you?" I asked, trying to make sense of his sudden insecurity. "No," he replied, "but at my company, all the other men's wives stay home. It's just how things are there." I had made it clear from the beginning that I wanted to keep working, especially since saving money was essential for our future plans. Kevin's new insistence confused me. Hadn't we agreed that I would continue working after marriage? I reminded him of that. "I know," he said, "but as my wife, I hoped you'd consider my feelings." His concern seemed more about fitting into social norms than our happiness. "Why not just pretend I've quit?" I suggested, unwilling to give up my career. "There's no need for me to actually leave my job." But Kevin was fixated on how others saw him. "If things don't change, I'll be ridiculed by my colleagues and bosses," he argued. "I'm supposed to be the head of this household, aren't I? Please, just do as I ask." I can't make such a decision immediately. Let me think about it, I said, needing time to process. All right, but please decide soon, he insisted, urgency creeping into his tone. I knew I couldn't let this fester. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I needed to take action. I reached out to my boss, Madison, who had worked as an administrative assistant since high school. She'd been through a similar situation with a controlling ex-husband and had eventually divorced him. Now a dedicated single mother, she was someone I deeply admired. That must have been tough, I said thoughtfully, reflecting on her strength and resilience. Yeah, it was, Madison replied, but I'm much better off now. I turned to her for advice, wondering if divorce was the right option for me as well. It's tricky, I said, contemplating whether quitting my job was the right move. We're newlyweds, and I don't want to rock the boat. But leaving my job, it feels like it could create even more tension. I get it, Madison said, her voice calm and supportive. Maybe you don't need to quit right away. Try talking to Kevin again and see if you can negotiate a part-time schedule. That might ease the situation and keep things from escalating. That's a good idea, I agreed. I'll try that first. If he still insists, I'll see what options I have. Remember, you've got my support, Madison reassured me. You don't have to handle this alone. Her words gave me a sense of relief, and I felt grateful to have someone in my corner. Our conversation deepened, and she revealed that her ex-husband had also changed after marriage, becoming someone almost unrecognizable. The realization hit me hard. Maybe Kevin's transformation wasn't just a coincidence. Despite my efforts, Kevin's pressure continued to mount. Isn't it a wife's role to stay home after marriage and support her husband? He argued one evening, holding on to outdated views. What century are you living in? I retorted. It's normal now for both spouses to work. Maybe for other couples, but we're different. You see that, right? He countered, trying to make me feel guilty. I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree, I replied firmly. We need to find a way that works for both of us. But Kevin didn't relent. Every day, he pushed me harder to quit my job. I felt suffocated, but I also realized that no matter how much I tried to meet his demands, they would never be enough. After many more conversations with Madison, I finally made the decision I would officially resign. But the truth was, I would still work part-time, 4 days a week. I've resigned from my job, just like you wanted, I told Kevin, not revealing the full truth. Keeping up appearances, huh? He said, relieved but unaware of my continued work. By then, it was clear that Kevin cared more about how others saw him than about our relationship. His sudden change in behavior had left me reeling. I chose to deceive him, continuing my job in secret, hoping it would preserve both our marriage and my independence. But as time went on, I realized my hopes for a fresh start were in vain. Kevin continued to try to control me, and his frustrations never stopped. One day, out of the blue, he made an unexpected request. A junior colleague is coming over today. I need you to host, Kevin said abruptly over the phone. Caught off guard, I responded. I had no idea. Sorry, it was a last-minute decision. Just keep it simple, he instructed, his tone dismissive. Please get everything ready, he added, before hanging up without waiting for a response. I quickly scrambled to prepare drinks and snacks for the guests. When Kevin arrived, however, his mood was far from appreciative. Did I ask you to prepare for today? He chided, his disappointment clear. You said you'd keep it simple, and you took that literally. This reflects poorly on me. You need to do your part as a wife. Can you explain what you mean? I asked, genuinely confused. I did my best. Is there something wrong with what I prepared? No, not really, he muttered, his expression unreadable. He seemed like a completely different person than the one I once knew. From then on, Kevin started inviting guests over almost every week. While he enjoyed the social gatherings, he expected me to be on call, ready to entertain at a moment's notice. It was clear he wanted to impress everyone with his image as a successful husband. Kevin, having guests over every week seems a bit much, I finally voiced one day. No, it's fine, everyone enjoys it, and you should support my decisions. It's your duty as my wife, he responded, brushing off my concerns. But maintaining this lifestyle is expensive, I pointed out. How do you expect me to manage all of it? Oh, stop complaining, he snapped. You're just nagging. He didn't offer a real answer. Every morning, I was up early, making meals, packing lunch sandwiches, and getting Kevin's suit ready for the day. On days when I worked part-time from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., there was barely any time for rest. But, despite the exhaustion, I found solace in my job. It was a brief escape from the chaos at home. You seem tired lately. Are you okay? My coworker Deborah asked one afternoon, noticing my fatigue. Yeah, a little, I admitted. If there's anything I can do, just let me know, Deborah offered, her kindness a rare comfort. Thank you, Deborah. You've been a much-needed support. Unlike Kevin, Deborah was well aware of my secret part-time job and had kept it from Kevin. She understood the strain I was under and the way things had soured at home. I'm so grateful for everything, I said, appreciating her empathy. Bill mentioned it, but I never thought Kevin would act like this, Deborah confided. Neither did I replied with a sigh. I've tried talking to him, but he doesn't listen. We barely have any meaningful conversations anymore. I just don't know how much more I can take. Don't be too hard on yourself, Deborah reassured me. You're managing work and household tasks admirably. I really appreciate all your help, I said, feeling the weight of her support. Living with Deborah's understanding was a stark contrast to the constant strain at home. However, Kevin began to grow uneasy about the growing closeness between Deborah and me. This discomfort led him to make a shocking decision. Where's Deborah? I asked one morning, noticing her absence. Mom's gone, he said casually, as if it were no big deal. What do you mean gone? I asked, confused. She's getting older, and I thought it would be best for her to be in a facility, he explained, his tone nonchalant. You put her in a home? My voice trembled, barely containing my shock. Yeah, just finished settling her in. Now I have the house to myself, he said, as if he had simply completed a routine errand. I'll wait a bit, but start preparing to leave, Kevin said dismissively, brushing aside my objections. Goodbye. His cold words hit me harder than I expected. I couldn't believe how much he had changed. My once timid, overly concerned husband had morphed into a domineering partner. This was the final straw. The future I had once dreamed of with him now felt like a distant memory. Living with a man like that, I couldn't imagine a bright future ahead. What comes next? I wondered aloud, unsure of what lay ahead. This could get interesting, Kevin responded, his voice oddly detached. Has the mover arrived yet? No need to rush. They should be here soon, I replied, trying to keep my composure. Then, almost as an afterthought, he added, Oh, and I'm changing the locks on the house. All right, got it, I said, my heart sinking. The finality of his words hit me hard. The thought of not having to see your face again is a relief, he sneered, his parting words as cold as his demeanor. After nearly 3 years of marriage, convinced that our relationship was beyond repair, I quickly gathered my things and left. Shortly after, I instructed my lawyer to file for divorce. Even in the midst of our crumbling marriage, Kevin boldly posted photos with his mistress on social media, an audacious move that only provided more proof of his betrayal. Even our mutual friends couldn't ignore his reckless behavior, marking the public unraveling of what we had once shared. After leaving his family's home, I transitioned back to full-time work and moved into a high-rise apartment in the suburbs, the place I had always dreamed of living. It was spacious, perfect for one, and most importantly, it felt liberating to be free from Kevin's presence. About a month later, I was startled one morning by the doorbell. Looking through the monitor, I couldn't believe my eyes. Kevin was standing outside. "Hey, it's me, Kevin. Open up, Carol," he called, his tone commanding and entitled. His sudden appearance was jarring, and the arrogance in his voice caught me off guard. Choosing to play along, I decided to feign ignorance. Who are you?" I responded through the intercom, curious to see how he would react. "Don't tell me you've forgotten your husband's face. I'm not married. I think you've mistaken me for someone else," I replied, watching as desperation crept onto his face, a stark contrast to the man I once knew. "Please, just listen. I've been deceived, and I need Carol's help," he pleaded, his voice tinged with desperation. "I'm sorry, but I'm not obligated to help you. If you keep insisting, I'll call the police." "Seriously, I don't know you," I retorted, keeping my tone firm. Kevin seemed to think that I would always be there to solve his problems, but I had moved on. I was no longer the person who would tolerate his dependency. Still, he persisted, unwilling to back down. "That's it? You made this mess, so it's up to you to fix it," I said, my patience running thin. "You don't have to be so harsh," he whined, his voice cracking with frustration. "Oh, and by the way, you can't stay at your parents' place anymore," he added abruptly, his tone shifting to one of authority. "What do you mean? Do you know whose name the house is under?" I asked, surprised by his statement. "No, but it used to belong to Deborah. Now, it's in my name," I said, revealing a change Kevin had no idea about. Kevin had insisted I leave when I confided in Deborah, and it had clearly upset her. "I can't believe my son has turned out like this. I'm so sorry, especially after all the help you've given us," Deborah had said during one of our conversations. "Deborah, you're divorcing Kevin, aren't you?" she had asked gently. "Yes, it's for the best," I confirmed. "In that case, I'll transfer the house to you," she offered, making a decision that I'm sure caught both me and Kevin off guard. Why would Deborah transfer the rights to the house to me? Kevin would never have expected such a turn of events. What he didn't know was that while all of this unfolded, he had been living with his mistress. "That's the situation. Understand and leave promptly," I said, cutting him off from any further attempts at reconciliation or intrusion into my life. "We probably won't cross paths again, but I made it clear to him that if he didn't stop, I wouldn't hesitate to call the police," I added firmly. With that, he finally gave in and left. The divorce went ahead as planned, and I received the settlement we'd agreed on. As the dust settled, I learned that Kevin had been duped and financially taken advantage of by his mistress. When the money ran out, she left him. Meanwhile, I made sure to pursue every avenue to secure my rights. The divorce settlement totaled about $410,000, but I wasn't done. I hired both a lawyer and a detective to ensure all financial claims against him were properly addressed. I was also looking into a further divorce claim that could bring in an additional $22,000. The house was officially transferred to me. I had made sure Kevin vacated the property, and despite his resistance, legal action forced him to comply. As for his whereabouts now, I couldn't care less. I had no interest in his life. Kevin's company eventually caught wind of the photos he posted with his mistress on social media. Unable to bear the embarrassment and his facade of a lavish lifestyle, he resigned from his job. It seemed inevitable, considering his true character. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that I don't dwell on it. I'm divorced now, but I see it as a lesson, a chance to move forward. My bond with Deborah remains strong, and I'm focusing on my career and relishing life as an independent, single woman. I embrace all the freedom and opportunities this new chapter brings.